my name is Dili. I'm from atsec Information Security. So today I'm gonna talk about our key experiences. It's important and key management related experiences during our assessment. Okay. Is that the correct one? Yeah. So atsec Information Security, my beloved company, is a independent and privately owned company. We focus on laboratory testing and evaluation, consulting services, and as well as the compliance services across all the information security standards. As the assessor, I have helped some Chinese POI vendors, which I cannot mention the names here, to acquire the PIN and P2PE certificates. And also as the FIPS tester, I have helped the Chinese HSM manufacturers. You know, there are a lot of hardware manufacturers, HSM manufacturers in China, to acquire the FIPS 140-2 certificates at security level 3. So let's go into the slides. Well, during the assessment, as the assessor, we normally start like that. So as the assessor, we will ask the vendor, so like in PIN and P2PE, we have defined KIF, we have the CARA, we have the RKD. So which one you could fit in? But as the vendor, they normally, no, we do nothing about that. We have our LKI and RKI. So what the issue is that, the issue is there are really so many key management activities, terms and definitions across the standards, like key generation, key convey, key transport, key establishment, key destruction, and so forth. The vendors, normally, they will use their own terms, LKI, the local key injection, and the RKI, the remote key injection. But the standards is actually talk about the KIF, the CARA, and RKD, the remote key distribution. So there are normally just misunderstandings between the assessor and the vendor. The reasons I believe is because, so first, the key definitions, the key management activity is really too much terms defined. And some of them are really quite well defined, like key generation. And some of them, they used here and there across the standards, but they don't really have a good definition, like key convey and key injection. They are actually used in PIN and P2PE, but you cannot find the key convey in FIPS, for example. And some of the terms like key loading, it has a simple definition, but it really involves in a lot of requirements across the PIN and P2PE requirements. So let me check. Okay. So this is a typical scenario about a POI vendor in the real life. We could see, I actually mark the terms from PIN and P2PE and FIPS on the diagram. I think you may receive the slides, so it will be okay. So from the top left, an acquirer who could generate the KEK, split into the KEK components, and use the KEK to encrypt the TMK, then send the key components and the encrypted TMK to the vendor. So the middle, the upper middle part. So as the vendor, they receive the KEK components and encrypted TMK. I know there would be a BDK from the DOKBT scheme or just fixed key for the fixed key scheme. Let's just talk about the TMK. So they receive the key components and the encrypted TMK from the acquirer. Then they could reconstruct the KEK from the components to decrypt the TMK and encrypt with their own keys and maybe multiple keys. And they, as well, they could generate the key pair instead of the POI device. So the upper right part, as a vendor, they could send the TMK to the target POI, or they could send the key pair, the asymmetric key pair, to the POI. Or if the POI generates itself the asymmetric key pair, it could send the CSR to the vendor for the signature. And we have the down below. It's the RKD defining the PN P2PE, which is they will have a key distribution host to remotely download the TMK to the POI, which is normally deployed in the merchant site. So let's have a look at the key generation first. There is a mini-map. I know it's really hard to read here, but you could refer back to the slides. I also put some spotlights there, so where the key generation happens. So key generation, it actually have a quite good definition from P2PE and FIPS. So I will not just repeat the definition. Normally the key generation, it involves a randomness process to generate a random number. Sometimes we could categorize the key derivation function or key derivation as a key generation, but we just focus on the randomness. So for PN P2PE, it is required to use the PDS approved or the FIPS approved security level 3 approved SCD, so the secure cryptographic device to generate the key. Or the vendor could choose a random number generator, which is third-party verified based on the SP822. But in FIPS, things different. In FIPS, we require to use the SP890A DRBG, deterministic random number generator. It's a pseudo-random number generator. We require to use the DRBG, the SP890A DRBG to generate the random number as the key. And we have to use a SP890B entropy source to seed the 98 DRBG. So it really looks deeper into the entropy source, how it is designed and how we could assess on it. And SP822 currently is not used by FIPS or not referenced by FIPS anymore because it is really hard to tell in numbers how good the entropy source is. With the 90B, and especially with the current NIST entropy validation system, the NIST ESV system, we could generate a mean entropy, which could be referenced. First, it could show how good the entropy source is. And then you can use it as a reference to see the 98 DRBG. So we will know how many digits, how many entropy we have in the entropy source, and how many entropy could be generated as a key. Well, we just leave the SP800-133 alone. That's not part of today. So, key convey. Well, the term convey is really not clearly defined in PN or P2PE. Well, in PN P2PE, the CO3 requirements, it talks about convey. But it is never really clearly defined it. So, well, the keys could be conveyed or transmitted in a secure way. But actually, for us, we would say the convey is more like a person-to-person process. So one person sends the key components or key shares or encrypted key or encrypted key pair to another person. So this is a convey. It's not just a key transport or something. This is a convey. So Let's look at the next one. I have the, again, I have the spotlight there, which convey happens. So key loading, in the other hand, according to the glossary defined in PIN and P2PE, the party A could be a person or a device, let's say key loader. But the party B must be a SCD, the device. So key loading could happen on multiple spots. Let's say, see the minimap. So the manufacturer receives the key components from the acquirer, and they could combine, or they could just input them into their SCD. Or they have the encrypted TMK they could just input via the key loader or a directly attached keyboard. Or they could download the TMK to the POI, or download the key pair to the POI, or receive the CSR from the POI, or just remotely download the TMK to the POI. But key loading, the term loading, is never used or never referenced in FIPS. Well, in FIPS there are SSP entry and output and SSP establishment. The entry and output is actually doing the loading thing, but they just not mention the key loading. Well, even the SSP, well, SSP is short for the sensitive secure parameters. It may consist of the key, the secret key, or private key and public key, or other sensitive data. But let's just focus on the key. So the key establishment in PIN, P2PE, and FIPS consist of key agreement and key transport, which makes things even more complicated. So from the FIPS, there is an IG 9.5. It defines, it shows the table with 4 dimensions, and it quite good define everything. So it has, it requires in some level you could just input the plaintext key, but some levels or some circumstances you have to use utilize the let's say trusted channel or key establishment protocol, or you have to have a split knowledge. So we talked about the key agreement, which is part of the key establishment. The key agreement defining the IG D.5. IG is short for the implementation guide. Defining the IG D.5. I will not just repeat it. It actually defines 3 approved scenarios which could be used by the FIPS approved device. They actually covers almost all the latest protocols, but in different standard it mentions like IFC based or FFC based or ECC based. It's mainly just RSA or ECDSA or DH something. Key transport makes even worse. Key transport in FIPS, it consists of the key encapsulation and key wrapping. Encapsulation, key encapsulation, it requires to use the asymmetric technology to protect on a symmetric key. So some parts of the TR34, which is a preferred way in the RKD, could fit in the key encapsulation. And key wrapping, on the other hand, it requires to use the symmetric key to protect another symmetric key. So we have the MKSK scheme. It could fall into the key wrapping. But key wrapping is not just a simple encryption. It combines the confidentiality and the authenticity. Okay, so in the real life scenario, let's say the minimap, well, we could have the key loading everywhere, but we are trying to make it more clear. So if there is a person involved or manual activity involved, let's say we input our key components or key shares into the SCD. So we would say it's a manual key loading. So if we use the SCD, let's say a key loader, to automatically transfer the key from one SCD to another one, we would say it's a automated key transport. And according to the standard, the PN P2PE, previously we could, well, it is normal, we have a mother POI, or a mother POS or SCD, transfer the TMK in plain text to the POI, to the target POI in the factory, or let's say in the KF, which would, we could still use it for 1 month, but next year it will be disallowed. So it just mark it deleted. Yep. Key destruction and zeroization in FIPS. Well, key destruction and zeroization, they are really well defined. So if there is a key reach its end of life or a potential compromise, then you have to securely delete the key or degaussing it or let's say overwrite it to just prevent the recovery of the original key. This is simple, but FIPS never pay attention to the destruction of the key components. So you could states them in your guidance, but it never requires that. But in PN and P2PE, it requires to use a crosscut type paper shredder to destruct the key components in the paper side. So the things Lance did in the morning, he just split his imprint receipt into 2 halves. So this would be marked as not in place. Okay, the spotlight. So key injection, which is hard. So key, it's complicated. Key injection, it makes a lot of things. So if we say, we talk with the vendor, what is a key injection? They normally think the key injection is something you just make the TMK. You just make the transaction key into the target POI. But in the real life, for example, if your whole process stops at just transferring the private key to the target POI, does it still count as a key injection? So we trying to make it simple. So if, let's say, if the key injection is a key management activity, we would say it just stops at the first key, the very first key of the target POI keys, hierarchy. To transfer that into the target POI, that is a key injection. Or let's say the key injection is just a business function. It includes everything. It starts from the vendor, receive the key components from the acquirer, and then download their TMK or the IPEK to the target POI. And the key injection might involve the RKD as their very last step. So that will be a business function. So here comes the RKD. As I said, RKD is something similar to the key injection. It is never get a clear definition what is a RKD. But PN P2PE, it defines it in XA, which you could use asymmetric technique to protect on the symmetric key loading. And the TR34 would be the preferred way. But to me or to us, we would just simply put the RKD as the very last step of the whole key injection. So which vendors love to say RKI, the remote key injection. So the summary, the current issue we encounter with the vendor, it's like some of the key management activities, they are really not well defined. Let's say key convey, key injection, or key distribution. And key injection and distribution, are they really a key management activity like key generation and key convey, or are they just a business process? And how we are trying to make it simpler and clearer is like, we normally say key convey is just person to person. So one person send key components, key shares in a TEA bag or envelope to another person. And key injection and remote key distribution, we would say they are just business functions. And we're trying to split the key loading, which mentions everywhere in the PN P2PE. We are trying to split it into the manual key loading and the automated key transport. Yeah, so that's all for my presentation. And if you have any questions, welcome to visit our booth at #1, so we can just discuss. Thanks, and have a nice day.